Hello everyone and welcome to your first lesson from Course 2 Accelerated, a plan for problem solving. This is lesson 1-1, which means chapter 1, lesson 1. What you will learn. We will be working with word problems, so you're going to use the 4-step plan to solve problems and solve multi-step problems. How does it apply to the real world? Well, let's take a look at a real world example. Cell phones. The table shows the results of a survey about how teens use their cell phones. About how many times as great is the number of teens who use their phones to take pictures compared to the number who exchange videos. So, teens using their smartphones, or some of them are sharing pictures and some of them are sharing videos. So, I use my cell phone to access social networks, exchange videos, play games, play music, and take pictures. So here we go. The two that we are talking about is exchanging videos, and the other one is taking pictures. And our question is, so notice that I've highlighted our data, the information that we need. And it says, about how many times as great is the number? About they're asking. So they're not asking for an exact number. They want us to tell us if it's 2 times, 3 times greater, about that. So how many times as great is the number of teens who use their phones to take pictures compared to the number of who exchange videos? So take pictures is greater than videos. Now, I have here taking videos. Let's round that down to a friendlier number. Let's say 60. And this one we can say, rounded to the nearest friendly number, I would say 180. Now, the reason I've rounded to these numbers is because they're asking for about. So about. So I have 60 here. If I take 60 and I multiply it by 3, I will get 180. So it's fair to say that teens use their cell phone to take pictures 3 times more than they do for making videos. Do you see the difference? Or you could just ignore the zeros and say 6 times 3 is 18, or 60 times 3 is 180. Now to solve that, I only followed a couple of steps. The steps that you could see that I clearly followed were I pointed out or highlighted the facts, and I addressed the question. And then I picked a strategy and I went with it, which was just simply rounding the numbers and seeing how much bigger the other number was, or how they compared. So let's see. Key concept, the 4-step plan. This is what we're going to be learning today. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Step 1, understand. So just the same way that I looked at the question, I wanted to make sure that I understood the question correctly. That's what you should do every time you look at a problem. What is the real question? What is it that you're looking for? So read the problem quickly to gain a general understanding of it. So what is it related to? What is it talking about? Ask, what facts do I know? Again, the numbers, right? The numbers. Ask, what do I need to find out? So what is the question? And finally, ask yourself, is there enough information to solve the problem? Is there extra information? Sometimes they give extra information that could be misleading, so you just have to ignore that and make sure that enough information is being given so that you can reach a conclusion. Now that you know your information, make a plan. That's step 2. Reread the problem to identify relevant facts. Determine how the facts relate to one another. Make a plan and choose the strategy for solving it. See, I made a plan. My plan was to round, and then I saw how many 60s were in 180, right? So I essentially divided 180 divided by 60, or I multiplied 160 times, I multiplied 60 times 3 and I got 180. There may be several strategies that you can use. Finally, estimate what you think the answer should be. So this is thinking ahead. You are thinking ahead about how many it should be. I thought about it when I rounded my numbers to 60 and 180. I already knew that it was going to be about 3 times larger. So I made an estimate. Finally, solve. Actually do the computation. Use your plan to solve the problem. If your plan does not work, revise it or make a new plan. Take another approach at it. And then finally, check. For check, reread the problem. Is there another solution? Examine your answer carefully. Does it make sense? Ask, is my answer reasonable or close to an estimate? Ask, does my answer actually make sense? If your answer is not reasonable, make a new plan and solve the problem another way. You may also want to check your answer by solving the problem again in a different way. So this is the bulletproof plan to solving word problems, these 4 steps. Understand, plan, solve, and then check your answer. For this lesson, we're only going to complete 2 examples. You see example 1 and example 2. First, we will see how one example is done, and we will try it ourselves. Then, for another example, different strategy, we will see how it's done, and then we will try it ourselves. So let's try number 1. Okay, quickly let's read through this and see how it's done. Refer to the table at the beginning of the lesson. About how many times as great is the number of teens who use their cell phones to take pictures compared to the number who exchange videos? Use the 4-step plan. Okay, so the same question. Understand. You know that 177 teens use cell phones to take pictures and 61 use them to exchange videos. You need to find about an estimate how many times as great the first group of teens is than the second group. Plan. Divide the number of teens who take pictures by the number of who exchange videos. So you're going to take the larger number and divide it by the smaller number. Since the question asked about how many times as great, you can estimate. Just make an estimate. So we have 177 divided by 61. You can change 177 to 180, change 61 to 60, and you get about 3. Well, 180 divided by 60 is 3, but here is about 3. So the number of teens who use their cell phones to take pictures is about 3 times as great as the number who exchange videos. Check. 61 times 3? Yeah, it's 183. Since 183 is close to 177, the answer is reasonable. Okay, let's try the example ourselves. Make sure you take notes as you watch. Okay, question 1. About how many more teens in the survey use cell phones to play games than to access social network sites? Let's pull up that chart again and see. So it's saying how many more teens use cell phones to play games. Play games. Let's highlight the information. We have here play games. Okay. And then social network sites. They're being compared. Social network sites. Okay. I think you can already kind of see the answer, because if we do 46 times 2, right, we will get 92, which is exactly the number that we have for playing games. Let's follow the 4-step process. First, understanding. I understand my numbers. I understand that we are comparing 46, right, compared to, let's just put the compare less greater than 92, right? And I know that 92 is greater than 46, but how much greater? I could also, I know that they're looking for about how many more times, how many more teens, about how many more teens, okay? About how many more. Okay, now we plan. Now, I understand that these 4 steps, you normally go through them in your head without having to write them out, but just for the sake of this lesson, we're going to write them out, because if we can write it and we can show that we know what we're doing, then it'll come more automatically to us when we do it mentally. So my plan is to see how many 46s are in 92. So I'm going to take 92 and I'm going to divide it by 46. Okay. The other thing I could do is I can take 46 and multiply it by 2 to see what I get, right? To see what I get and see if it's a close number to 42. Those could be my plans. And now we actually solve. 92 divided by 46 equals 2. Okay, or you could say 46 times 2 is 92. And there we have it. So it's exactly 2 times. And we can check, right? We can check. It's our last step. Simply, I checked it, honestly, by doing it a different way. But we can also check by taking 46 plus 46 and see what we get. Okay? You'll see that you'll get 92. So that's another way to check. Remember that word questions have to be answered with words. So I would say, therefore, the number of teens that play games, well, I forgot the S, in comparison to social networking is double. Okay, please pause the video and make sure that you copy this down. You have it all written down and that you understand it. If you don't understand it, go back and rewatch it. Let's look at example 2. Sometimes, as we're going through our 4-step process, the solving step may require more than one step. You might have to divide and then subtract, or you might have to add and then divide, or so on. So just so you know, in some problems, the solve step may require 2 or more sub-steps. Example 2. The tower of a free fall ride at an amusement park is 251.5 feet tall, 251.5 feet tall. The ride begins to free fall from 18.9 feet below the top of the tower, and the brakes are applied 41.4 feet from the bottom. How long is the free fall portion of the ride? So even though they call this entire fall a free fall, you're really only free falling for this part of it, because it starts to roll and the brakes are released, and then you actually free fall on the ride, and then the brakes are applied here so that you don't crash to the ground, obviously. So what do we have to do? Well, we have to take the sum of this amount that is being braked for and this amount that is braking for. We take the sum of those two and find the difference between the sum of those two numbers and the entire drop, and that should give us this value here, because really what we're doing is we're measuring from this end to this end, right? And we've been given that measurement, and we've only been given this measurement and this measurement, but we have not been given this one. So really what we have to do is subtract this from here and this from here. But instead of doing subtraction 1 and then subtraction 2, just add these two up, because you know you have to take them both away from this amount, and do it in one step. Well, that's my plan. Let's see what the text tells us to do. Understand, you know the tower is 251.5 feet tall, and that the ride starts at 18.9 feet from the top and ends 41.4 feet from the bottom. You need to find the length of the free fall portion of the ride. Yeah, that's what we know. We need to find the length of this actual free fall, the part where there's no brakes. Plan, draw a diagram. Okay, yeah, you can draw a diagram, but I think a lot of us are just able to work out the numbers. Subtract the starting height of the ride from the height of the tower, then subtract the height from where the brakes are applied. So they're asking you to do two subtractions. What I would have done is added the 2 and subtracted only one time from the entire amount. So let's see, 251.5 minus 18.9 leaves you with 232. So from here all the way to the bottom, 232. So now we have to subtract this piece, right? So 232.6 minus 41.4 equals 191.2 feet. So the free fall is so on. Check. Since 20 plus 40 plus 90 is 250, the answer is reasonable. Let's see. Yeah, if we were to go backwards and I take this and I make it 190, and then I make this 40, and I make this 20. So 20 plus 40 plus 190 is approximately 250. It's very close. Yeah, it's reasonable. Okay, so now let's do ours right here in this work screen or workstation. Let's see question 2. If you like, this would be a great time to pause the video, read the question on your own, do it all on your own, and then play the video to see if you did it correctly. Pause now. Okay, I hope you paused the video. Let's try this on our own. I'll read it. A rectangular garden is 12 meters long and 9 meters wide. So a rectangular garden, 12 meters long, 9 meters wide. A border is sold in 1.5 meter sections. How many sections are needed to surround the garden? Surround, it looks like they're asking us for the perimeter, the distance around the outside. Just to visualize it, okay? Well, actually, let's do the 4-step process the way we should. Let's understand first. What I gathered from the question is that we understand that we have a rectangle that is 12 by 9 meters, and they want us to find the perimeter, so we know how many 1.5 meter sections to buy. We have to find the perimeter to know how many 1.5 meter sections we need, correct? My plan, I plan to draw a diagram, right? I plan to draw a diagram. Find the sum of all the sides and divide it by 1.5. So find the sum, I'm going to add up all the sides. So 2 sides are 12 and 2 sides are 9, right? So I'm going to add all that up, and then I'm going to divide it into 1.5 because I want to know how many 1.5s are in the entire perimeter. Okay, solve. As I said, I'm going to draw a quick diagram like this, just to get an idea, I have 12 on this side and 12 on this side, 9 meters and 9 meters. So let's see, I have 12 times 2 is 24, and 9 times 2, so let me just keep a quick note over here. I have 24 from this side and this side, and then 9 times 2 is 18, right, plus 18. That'll give me the sum of all my sides. That gives me 42, right? 42. So 42, and now I want to know how many 1.5 sections there are. So I'm going to go ahead and divide that by 1.5. And 42 divided by 1.5 equals 28. Okay, in case you don't remember how to divide with decimal, I'll do a quick recap right here on the side. Okay, watch this. We have the 42, and I'm going to divide it by 1.5, correct? This number, the 1.5, has to be turned into a whole number. So I have to move the decimal over. But if I move the decimal over here, I have to move the 1 that we don't see here. We have to move it over as well. Now we don't see it on the 42 because it's at the end of the number. Unless we actually had a decimal number to write, we wouldn't put the decimal there, right? So we don't put the decimal at the end of a number if there's no decimal. So we move this over once, and I'm going to move this one over 1, and now it becomes 15. Right, I'm going to take my eraser here, and I'm going to erase that and erase this right here. So now it becomes 15, and 42 becomes 420 because I moved the decimal over. So how many 15s are in 42? I know there's 2 of them, right? There's 2 right there. Oh, I can't write, sorry. And that becomes 30, correct? Subtract, I get 12, 20. How many 15s are in 120? 15 times 8 is actually 120. And there we go. And that's how you divide with decimals. And keep in mind that we are answering a word problem or a question with words. So we would need 28 sections to surround the garden. That was the question. How many sections are needed to surround the garden? We would need 28 sections to surround the garden. All right, I hope that makes sense. And next up we have our classroom work. I just want to give you a little preview onto the guided practice. Right now would be a good time to pause the video and read through these questions and make sure you feel confident doing them. You don't have to complete them, but just have a heads up and so that you can be best mentally prepared for the classroom content. Read through them, and if you don't understand how to do it, go back to examples 1 or examples 2. And in class, on your own, we will also complete the independent practice, which is this page right here, and we will check it together in class. That's it for today. See you then.